Yeah, good afternoon, Dan, Midwest Technical Sales. What we're covering today is power supply replacement in a 124 or a Superloader, L700. Both the same thing. Rich is behind the camera, is going to make all this magic happen. In fact, he's got a camera filter, makes me look 20 years younger. So anyways, we're starting off on a flat surface here. See, I've got aluminum plate with some 4-inch angle channel iron on it to hold it. You got to have a solid flat surface to assemble these. So you might as well have a solid flat surface to disassemble. You've got a number of screws to take off the top. And I like to arrange my screws in. These are the screws that I took out from the outside. These are the screws that I took out for the inside. You can do it whatever way you want to. But some of these screws kind of look a lot alike. Alright? To disassemble the top, what you're going to need is a 10x 10 Torx. Okay? That'll take care of these screws here, the smaller, little larger screws here, and the longer screws here. You're also going to need a 3/8 inch wrench to take the rails off if you have rails on it, and also if you have rack ears you need to take those off as well. So once you get that all disassembled, what I do is I like to, like I say, put them in separate things. But what I would encourage you to do is at this point, get your cell phone out and take a picture, because we do have some screws. There's 4 of them in here that go into plastic. You can see the type of threads that it has on there. They go into plastic and they're positioned 1, 2, 3, 4. So just as a memory jogger, take a picture of what this looks like before you take it apart. Magically, I took all the screws out and it's ready to come apart like so. Now inside the autoloader, what you're going to find is a picker in the front, power supply, and you're going to find a drive. This happens to be a blank magazine slot, and I'll take that out. If you had another magazine in here, you could take it out at this time. If you wanted to, you'll see a little icon on the screen. You can click on how to get these magazines out without a power supply, because you'll want to do that. But Rich will put something in there for a little hot link for you to do. Alright, obviously first thing, disconnect the power, right? Okay, you got that. So you're not messing around with the device with the power on it. Next thing I would do is take this cover off, and this cover's got 4 screws holding it on. That'll release the cover. Once the cover's off, there's 2 screws holding the power supply in here, and there's 1 screw back here. So what you'll need to do, cover off, take the 1 screw out from behind, these 2 screws off here, and theoretically, at this point, I forgot to tell you, it's still hooked up to the AC part here. So you have inside of your unit, it sits in here like so, you've got a switch like this, okay? And once you take your pictures, you'll see that the little connectors are hooked on to the same side. A lot of people like to put them on the top or the bottom, turn the switch on, doesn't work. So they're hooked to the same side. These are with shrink tubing over the insulators. So don't pull the wire out, then you just screw things up. Pull the insulator off here, and they're tough, okay? So you pull them both off, set that aside. This is a defective power supply I just had out here. Then you're ready to remove the power supply. You can set the power supply over on the side over here. And what you want to do at this time, we've got 1 connector that connects to the tape drive, okay? Plugs into the tape drive, and be smart about this. Don't go up and down like this to get it, because you'll crack the circuit board. You want to go sideways, back and forth, and it'll come out. You have a larger connector here that plugs into the main board that disconnects from here, and then you're going to end up with a long black wire that's got shrink tubing on it. It's going to snake around the drive, and it's going to go up to the picker, okay? So all of that has to come off. Once you're at this point, you can easily take this off, okay? This is snaked up and down. You'll be able to see some slots go up, some slots go down. You want to get that out of there. So you're going to be hooked to the tape drive, to the picker assembly. Now you want to remove the tape drive. This is where you're going to need a 9 Torx, because you have some screws that look just like the 10s, but they're not, they're 9s. Okay, they're kind of small, and they hold the drive in, okay? So that's why I have this, save these screws. There's 4 of them, take those 4 screws out, and the drive can be removed, okay? Now, you want to be careful on this because you have this small connector here, which is a library control. That plugs into the back of the drive here. It can only go one way, all right? So you have to just make sure when that comes out, you just don't pull the drive out and pull this thing out. But you get it out, just gradually grab all these wires, wiggle it back and forth, side to side, and it'll come out. Same thing here. You've got a connector on this picker that's underneath here. And again, a lot of people are going to want to go up and down on it. A lot of times I'll take a larger screwdriver, just pry a little bit on the corner, back and forth, it'll come out. And so reassembly is kind of the same. First get this in, first get the power supply, the power hooked up to the picker, have this wire coming out here, put the drive back in, hook up your I/O to the drive, whether it's SCSI or SAS, put this connector in, gently place this back down where it belongs, okay? And with the power supply, at this point, you could plug it back into the main board, this big connector here, plug it into the drive, and then get it in place here, hook up your wires. Again, these AC wires go to the outside of the switch, here and here. That's where your cell phone's going to help you take a picture. Hook those up, screw this one in the back, and now I know you've got the power supply replaced. First thing you want to do is try it out, see if it works. Don't do it, okay? Stop. What's going to happen is there's a little lever on this picker, and if it doesn't have the magazines in, and this is just a blank one, if it doesn't have the magazines in, it's going to get confused, and you're going to have an arm coming out the side of the picker that's going to want to pull a tape out of there. So just don't turn it on until you have both the magazines in, okay? You'll also want to now, once it's apart, with the drive, use some of the dust off, kind of blow it out, and things like that. Get the little dust bunnies out. And you'll want to clean this fan off here, clean the little blades off with the fan and stuff like that. And you should be ready for reassembly. Now you may ask, what happens to these power supplies? Why do they go out? There's 3 reasons for it. Fatigue. It's just old. Could be in service continuously, could be on for 5 years in a dusty environment. It gets tired, it gets old. This fan could have failed, okay? So it doesn't spin properly. And a lot of our customers, I've coached them on this, when they hear the fan making noise, they come and buy another fan, all right? The other thing that could happen is with the magazines. And there are, there's a way to check the magazines. Have I already said that, Rich? Way to check them?
Link to the video.
Yeah, there's a link in the video. So make sure you check that magazine, because here's the scoop. If you have a magazine that causes the power supply to go out, you spent $2.25 on the power supply, you took an hour and a half, you paid $50 for overnight shipping, guess what? You blew out your power supply, okay? We didn't do it, you did it. So you have to be real careful with that, that it happens. So once we have everything kind of back together, again, we're on a flat surface, you turn it on, you know that it works, entertain yourself, watch how the picker goes up and down, watch how the magazines go clunk, clunk, clunk around and stuff like that. If you see the magazine jamming, turn it off right away, because you're going to take out the power supply. You might even take it out before you see a magazine jam. So you want to avoid that at all costs. That's about it. Cover goes back on. This little guy goes over the top of this. The cover goes back on, and again, you're on a flat surface. You want to make sure it's nice and flat, because this cover adds rigidity to this. This thing is real floppy how it is right now, okay? So it needs to have all the screws in. Start off with your big 4 ones that are going into the plastic, holding the picker. Again, remember, they're in plastic. Then you've got maybe 20 other smaller screws to put on. These can be problematic for some people. What these do is hold the rails on. So what you've got to do with this is get your hand inside of here. You'll see where the hole is. These are squared off and they fit between 2 ridges, okay? So you get, once you're all assembled, you can get in there. It's kind of hard getting, you know, way back over there, but you'll figure it out how to do it, and that should take care of it. Snug them up just a little bit, just like torquing a wheel on a car, you know. So you want to start with these snugged up a little bit, get all the small ones all the way around just snugged up, and start from the center, just a little more tension, all the way around, a little more tension, and then a final tension. And final tension, you know, these screws are really small, they're like a number 4. I mean, this is kind of like, that's all we're talking about. Don't go reefing on them like that, because you'll break them, and you won't have a good day. So that kind of covers the power supply replacement. There's a couple of other things. I mean, I was in the telling mode, so now let me go in the selling mode. If you have more time on your hands to do this, that it's, you know, this is an important task for you to do, and you've got an hour or 2 hours to do it, fine. If you don't, you might want to consider sending it in. So if you send this in, we will install the power supply, charge you for the power supply. Cost of the power supply is $225. Installation is $125, and we'll go through, clean the library out, do any kinds of adjustments, blow it out, get all the little dust bunnies out, and send you back a test report showing you how well the drive is performing and things like that. Now, for you guys who want to go and shop on eBay and buy a power supply for less than $225, have at it. You know, that's what you want to do. But I want to tell you, our power supplies are a little bit different, okay? We have the ability to use a high pot tester on these things. So we can test the insulation quality of a particular power supply. If it's low or high, you know, we don't want to use it. The second thing we have the ability is we use a hand tech, as it's called, which is a USB-based oscilloscope. And hook the probes up to the DC, and we can look at the ripple on the power supply, if there's any AC voltage on the power supply. And the third thing we use is sort of one of the higher tech fluke meters, which we can see if there's any AC on the DC circuit. So we do all 3 of these things to our power supply. And then, you know, a lot of times you'll get these power supply and the guy said, yeah, it works, you know, but he never tested it. How do you know it works? So you've got, you know, how many days you're going to wait for it, how long you're going to take to put it in. You got to get a return, you got to send it back, you get your money, and you've got to buy another one. You could gobble up 8 to 10 days of time, but, you know, just to save 20 bucks or 30 bucks or whatever you're going to save on eBay. If you ran into a real issue, let's say Thursday afternoon, got back from lunch, your incremental backup failed, okay? Drive is dead. Theoretically, you could call us, have a power supply delivered to your facility at 8:30 in the morning, FedEx P1. You could have your unit apart, you could install the power supply, you could be up and running by 10 o'clock, so you're all set for your backup. If that's important to you, you might want to go ahead and do it. One of the other things that we do is we upgrade the drives. So if you're running LTO3s and you say, well, I need more storage, we can upgrade to LTO4, LTO5, whatever. You need another magazine, we can do that. You're running out of 16 slots, isn't quite enough for you. We can take your unit in on trade and we can upgrade you to another unit. So that's basically on replacing a power supply in one of these, and we're glad to be able to help you out. Thank you.